God bless you. Thank you very much for tuning in there. I am Dr. Deepak Bhatacharya and I'm going to talk to you today about how can you make your interview a great way to a great career. Let me tell you, this is going to be very exciting, you see. Very, very exciting. So stay tuned in. Ladies and gentlemen, I would also request you to ask me questions whenever you would feel like. I will take those questions either as I'm talking or after I complete. So you could please ask me any kind of questions which you feel is good enough. Let me start off, okay, by telling you what is an interview. But before that, I'm sure all of you who are here and all of us generally are looking out to be successful in your lives. And when I talk about career, and this time I'm talking about a job career, it's very important for us to actually go and appear for an interview. Am I right? Yes, I am. Yeah. So we're looking at what is it that we need to do to clear an interview so that we go ahead and have a great career. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start off by asking you, what do you think are prospective employers looking for when they hire a candidate? Well, let me put it in a different way. Or let me answer this question for you in one word. What is that? Competency. Ladies and gentlemen, every prospective employer is looking at whether you are competent, which means whether you have the required competency. Now, I'm going to talk about three very important elements of competency. And I will request you to take note and really work on them. Really work on them. I'm repeating this. Really work on them. The first thing, when an employer is looking out for your competency, he is looking at for your ability. Now you will say, what is ability? What's that? Well, the qualifications that you have. Are you qualified to do that job? For an example, if a particular designation, a particular job description has specified MBA as a qualification, you require to have MBA to having qualified for an interview. On the other hand, if it's an engineer, you need to be an engineer. If it's an architect, you need to be an architect, which means you need to have the requisite qualification that's a part of your ability. Now, is qualification the only thing? The answer is no. Qualification is not everything. Very important is the knowledge that you have. Do you have the right knowledge to do that job? Do you have it in you? What's the kind of knowledge do you have? Work-related knowledge. For experienced people and for freshers, it's the knowledge about the company. It could be the knowledge, a little knowledge about the job and the job description that you probably are going to have if you are going to be appointed for that job. Now, does that end there? No. One, I'm repeating, ability. May you require qualification, you require experience, and very importantly also you require knowledge and experience, both put together. So I first talked about qualification, then I spoke about knowledge, and the third thing is experience. Now, why I took it in the last is because there may be some people who are doing or getting the job for the first time. So obviously, they may not have the experience. Until and unless you are a management graduate and probably you have done some internship, and because of the internship, probably you may have some experience or some projects that you do. Dear friends, competency, I'm repeating this, please take note. Every employer, prospective employer is looking out to check the competency of an individual for that job. And one of the parameter is to know, whether he has the ability. Ability stems from qualification, experience, and knowledge. But you know, let me tell you, I interview a lot of people here. Let me tell you, I find many people who have the ability. Yes, really, they have the ability, you know. And I'm not joking, they have the ability, but yet they are not getting a job. Why? You know why? The second element I say is that you need to have the skills to use those ability. What does they mean? Let me give an example here. Let's say I come for a job of a professor, okay? And there is someone else also who comes for the job of a professor. Now, interview is going to check my ability. That, dear, do I have a PhD? So yes, Dr. Deepak Bhatacharya has the PhD, and maybe Dr. X also is and has PhD. Very good. Does he have experience? Yes, sir, 25 years of experience in teaching. Wow, fantastic, you know. Now, let's say I'm into marketing. I'm a marketing guy. So does he have experience in marketing? Does he have industrial experience? Does he have corporate experience? Yes, I do have. Let's say Dr. X also have. So when it comes to ability, both of us have the requisite ability. But now when it comes to skill, suppose I'm taking a lecture. And when I'm taking a lecture, what I'm talking, I'm only not understanding. Whereas Mr. X, when he talks, he has a great connectivity and is able to engage the students in what he's speaking. Which means that both may have the same ability, but one has great skill which helps him communicate. Which means that he uses his skill with his ability. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to therefore bring to your notice is that, do you have the requisite skill? Do you have it? You may have the ability. Do you have skills? Because you see, let me tell you, and there's nothing new, there's no rocket science. If you have gone for an interview, I'm sure you have seen there may be 20 people in the first round for the same job. The company may take only one. And as you move ahead, you know, when you get into the last rounds of interview, you probably have 2 or 3 people, but at least you have a competition. You are not the only one who is being interviewed. So is it that only ability works? The answer is no. Oh, but is it that ability is required? The answer is yes, yes, and yes. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, you need to have the ability as well as you need to have the requisite skills. Skills of communication, skills of networking, skills of relationship building, and so on and so forth, dear friend. You need to have that skill. I've got one question here. Let me see. We have Mr. D'Souza asking me, do you say that MBA or a specialization course is important to get a good position? Well, Mr. D'Souza, I will take this question after I complete the third element, and I'm going to answer you. I'm really going to answer you. Don't go away. I'm going to answer you. Have patience. Let me get into this, and I hope I'm okay. Yeah, if you give me some time, let me complete these competencies, you know, and I'm going to answer you. Coming back here, so I spoke about, I'm repeating this. Please take note. I spoke about that in case you want to be good in an interview, in case you want to get off and be successful in an interview, you need to be, people are checking your competency. And when you are checking your competency, number one, you need to be very clear about your ability, which is talked about experience, your qualification, as well as your knowledge. And you also need to have the skill. The skills of communication, the skill of relationship building, the skill of networking, the skill of connectivity, the skill of connections, and so on and so forth. So you need to develop skills. Let me tell you, you need to develop skills. There may be many people who have the ability. I told you, I gave an example of myself, but you need to be too good, you see. You need to have it in you, boss. You need it, boss. And therefore, let me tell you, whole your life, working life, till the time you will be working, you will be taking interviews and you will be giving interviews, and that's what you need to grow up. And you need to therefore be very competent, and this is an ongoing process, and you need to take that. The third element, after which I am going to take your question, Mr. D'Souza, the third element, is what? I see some people who have the ability, who have the skill, yet they are not successful. Can anyone tell me why? Can anyone tell me why? Why do you think they are not successful? They have the ability, they have the skill, yet they are not successful in an interview. Yet companies feel that they are not competent. Dear friends, let me tell you and mind you, the third and the most important element is their behavior. 2 days back in Times of India, in Economic Times or Times of India, I read an article. I think the company was Piramal, and they talked about humility as one of the parameters to check the competency of behavioral skills. Dear friends, what I am driving home, you have the skill, you have the ability, but you may not have the right behavior, and companies will check that. You know what is that? Behavior is what you show outside, and it stems from your attitude. Attitude comes from your mindset, and mind comes from your mind if you have one. And therefore, it's very important, ladies and gentlemen, that you need to control your mind. You need to control your mind. You need to be very good in your behavior. And there's going to check today when you go for interviews in good companies, you know that these guys gives you psychometric test, and they're going to check you through psychometric assessments. Because we want to understand not always what you exhibit, which is outward. We would also like to understand what are you internally. And therefore behavior is one of the major things you see. Therefore, to sum this up, dear, if you are wanting to be competent in your job, you need to have 1, the ability, 2, the skill, and 3, the right behavior. You have these 3, come back to me if you are not successful. You have to be very good at this, dear. That's what I wanted when I said that I'll talk about competency. Now I will take your question, Mr. D'Souza, as I promised you. Your question was, you asked me, do you say that an MBA or a specialization course is important to get a good position? Now see, this is a very generalized question, Mr. D'Souza. You see, I don't know, let me ask you, are you an MBA? I'm going to ask you, are you an MBA? I don't know, whether I could see your comment. But let me tell you, dear. The answer is yes and the answer is no. Yes, because every company is looking at whether you have the expertise and whether you have the knowledge and whether you have the right skill set and whether you have the right qualification for a particular job. And it's very competitive out there. And I don't have to tell you that. You know that, dear. Very, very competitive out there, dear. And one of the elements to be or have a competitive advantage which you have in strategy, which you have, is to have little more higher qualification. So if you have that, is there any harm? Is there any harm? Probably no. Probably no. But if you don't have it, can't you do the job? Probably yes. So I said yes and no. But the point is that if the qualification or the job description says that the company needs an MBA, after having all the things that is required to do the job, your CV will not be picked up, my dear friend, because it is the qualification which has been stated. And why is it stated? Because the company feels, the organization feels that you or they probably need a guy who has that requisite qualification. So the answer is yes. And the answer is no. And you need to have it. Because if you don't have it, your CV doesn't pick up. Are you with me? I am ready to debate or take your other questions if it stems from there. Which means you need to have this. I say that if you have something better, what is the harm? If you have something good, what is the harm? An engineering job. Suppose I'm an MBA. See, I am a Welingkar alumni. I have done my PhD and I'm an MBA from Welingkar, right? Let me tell you, dear. When I go and I say and I see people, and if I have an additional qualification, what's the harm? Now, if I go for a job where they want an engineer, specialization, you ask me that, sir, is it an MBA or a specialization? So let's say that's a specialization, right? So when we talk about this, what we need to do? What we need to do, dear? They will not call me because I'm not an engineer. So I'm sure, I think I made this clear. Every job will require a specific description and specific qualification. If it is stated, you need it. If no, it's okay. Having said that, let me, because we are going to have a little more time, let me talk about a few interview tips that I would like to give you. Few interview tips. What are those? First thing, when I talk about interview tips, I always say I'm a marketing guy. I always look at what my customer is going to look at. So when I'm going to go for an interview, I am as if selling my skills, and the organization is going to buy it. So I am looking at as the interviewer as my customer. So what I'm going to see? I always first will get prepared myself to understand, what is my customer wants? What does he needs? What is his demand? What is his desire? And therefore, I would like to give that. So I say, what are the prospective employers looking at? And these are nothing but interview tips. Number one thing, let me tell you, dear, be punctual. Be on time. See, very, very important. I see some people, they are not on time. They come for an interview and they are not on time. Can you believe it? They're not on time, right? I don't take them. Very simple. You need to be on time. Be punctual. Number two, be well groomed. I see some people coming for a marketing interview for a pharmaceutical company and wearing a bali. You know what's a bali? That bali they use this, in their ears, and they come for an interview. Now that's okay if you go for an advertising job maybe. I'm not saying no. I'm not averse to that. But dear, we need to understand, are we well groomed when you go for an interview? If you're going for a sales job, do we have a tie at least, right? Do we have our hair combed properly, right? If you have a beard, is it trimmed and it's proper? It's okay. But is it like that? What is my dressing? Am I too loud? Right? What is it that I have worn? I see some people, with the jeans, low waist jeans coming, and when they sit, and when they come across, let me tell you this, you see. In the first 30 seconds, and mind this, in the first 30 seconds when a person walks in, an interviewer makes up his mind whether this guy is going to be good enough. And if he feels he is good enough, the perception he has through the way his body language is, through the way he is groomed, his facial expression, his smile, his humor. He makes up his mind. Now, whenever he makes up his mind to the positive sense, what does he do? He gives you some easier question. He makes you feel good. You are not able to, let's say, answer something. He will say, no problem. Okay, we'll go ahead. No problem. So we need to understand that, We need to understand that. You're welcome, Mr. D'Souza. You're welcome, Mr. D'Souza. Thank you so much. Good that you understood, dear. Yeah. God bless you. Having said that, let us understand. Second thing, be well grown. Third thing, a very specific thing I'm telling you. Third thing, please carry your documents. Because whenever you go for an interview, they will tell you, please carry your certificates. Many a times I ask someone, have you got your 10th standard certificate? Suppose a man is 35 years old, I am looking at for him in a middle management level or a senior management level. And I ask him, dear, do you have your 10th standard mark sheet? I would like to see that. Now what happens is that he opens his, the way he has kept, I want to see whether he's organized, So what he does is, he picks up his file, and sometimes, the papers are moving out. It's moving all over the place. He's finding out whether that thing is there or not. And finally he says, and he's looking at me like this, and I understand he has not got it, or he's not aware. So I asked him, do you have it? I asked him, do you have it with you? He says, yes, but I'm not finding it, See, don't bluff. Don't bluff. Don't bluff. If you don't have it, say. Be honest. So, what's the tip? Be honest. Be have some ethic, have some moral values, Be ethical, sir, I'm so sorry, sir. I have not been able to. Today I have not got this, sir. So, at the most what I'll say, but I told you that you should have it. At the most I'll say that. Anyway, I'll go to the next question. But dears, I see some people, the moment I say they will have the file, open and straight that page, move the file across to me and give it to me. And I pick that. Now you tell me, dear, a man of 35, 20 years back, what marks he has got, am I looking at that? No. I'm not looking at it. What I'm looking at it is whether he's organized, whether he's following instructions. I'm looking at it that when he is giving it to me, how is he presenting that to me? I'm looking at it, is he aware what he is talking? But yes, I have to say something, so I will say, oh, you got good marks in 10th standard, it's okay, So you need to be honest. I have got another question. I'll just see another question. Mr. Rushabh Shah is asking me, hi Deepak, I wanted to ask, in a batch of 60 graduates from the same vertical, more often than not, an interviewer has asked me, why should they hire me over others? Very good question, Mr. Rushabh, very good question. Over others, even though we have discovered our strengths and weaknesses, what can be an ideal approach to answer such questions? Fantastic, Rushabh. Absolutely great. You're good. Very good. I like it. You have said this. You have said another thing. Yeah, also another question would be, when the interviewer asks me how long I am willing to be associated with their organization. Great. Fantastic. 2 questions have asked me, and point on the banquet. Beautiful, beta. Beautiful. Let me answer your first question. You said in a batch of 60 people, when you come for this happens mostly in a campus interview, I'm sure, because when you have 60 people you're talking about, I'm sure you're either studying or you're doing some campus interviews and you have them. Let us understand. See, we talk about strength and weaknesses, dear friends. What is strengths internal to us? What is weaknesses internal to us? Let's understand. The company wants to know, how are you better? The company wants to know what is your unique selling proposition. The company wants to know what is your competitive advantage. And therefore I ask sometimes questions is, tell me, why should I hire you? What is in it that you have that you want me to hire you? And where are you good at? Very good question, I'm sure you're having. You see, very simple. My answer to that would be, do not go about comparing. Don't go about comparing, You may say, sir, I would just like to state that I have the requisite skill, the requisite qualification, and the requisite experience, and I am willing and I'm able to put the best on the table so that I can give productivity efficiently to the organization. And I can tell you, sir, if you hire me, I will leave no stone unturned to see that I give what the company expects me to. That could be a question. That could be one of the way to answer this question. Do not get into comparisons. Talk about yourself. Talk about your skill set. Talk about how good you are. Talk about your competency. Talk about, any related thing that you have done, which probably is in line with the job that you're looking at. Probably, you could also talk about some experiences that you have, which you feel will help them, or help you and obviously them to deliver on the job. So you can look at that. That's one way of answering. The second question which you talked about is, when interview asks me how long I am willing to be associated with this organization. See, there are some questions in an interview which I call as tricky questions, And you need to practice this, dear. You need to practice this. Very good, you are asking me this. You see, you could say that, sir, till the time you feel I'm contributing, and I feel, sir, I am contributing and growing, sir. Leave it. Don't give a timeline. Don't give them a timeline, If you give them a timeline, they will say,